guys. Today we're going to be talking about the Gottman Method Couple Therapy, sound relationship house theory. And so this is the theory that the Gottmans, after researching over 3,000 couples for over the span of 30 years, they have determined this is what makes a relationship last a lifetime. This is what is a healthy, functional relationship. And they put it in the form of a house for us so that it's easy for us clinicians to explain to our clients, even though it's a little hokey. I often tell my couples that the language is so important to incorporate into the relationship. Part of why we're coming into couples therapy is to learn how to engage in a new way. And part of that new engagement should be a new language that we're speaking to one another that will positively cue us in on what we're trying to say and our needs. So the sound relationship house theory is, like I showed you, in the form of a house. And that being said, the load-bearing walls, right? The two most important in a relationship here are trust and commitment. And trust is, can I rely on you? Can I count on you? Will you be there? Are you faithful? Are you loyal? Trust is obviously broken in a lot of different ways in relationships, unfortunately. And that's why we as couples therapy specialists are here to help. Because regardless of what's going on, aside from, abusive situations of domestic violence, most issues can be overcome. And especially if you have a professional there who's guiding you, who's helping you, if you have two willing, intentional partners, you can regain that trust. Commitment is the second load-bearing wall, and that is, are you in it for the long haul? Are you committed to making this relationship last a lifetime, right? When couples speak their vows, they say till death do us part, and for better or for worse, it's sickness and in health. And, that's easy to say in the moment when you've got on a beautiful ball gown and he's dressed to the nines, but it's not as easy after 7 years when you're both really struggling through a global pandemic, let's say, and homeschooling the kids now, and businesses struggling. So commitment is, are you going to be there through the long haul? And I often tell my couples, you feel that the person is not committed, but I want you to look back. Has that person woken up and chose you every morning from the beginning of the relationship till now? That speaks volumes. And when couples stay together for decades on end, that's a sign of commitment. And so while it might not be felt in that immediate moment, take a look back and try to be more objective about, is the person committed? Are you committed even? And then we get into the middle of the house, and it starts at the bottom layer of, I know you can't read that, it's backwards, to you. Building love maps. And building love maps is, do you know me? It's getting to know your partner's inner world. And in the beginning of a relationship, we are excellent at this, right? We want to know everything that turns our partner off and on, and what they like and what they don't like, and what irritates them, and how we cannot do that. But over time, love maps are not necessarily maintained. And so sometimes we're working on outdated love maps for our partner, and that inner world is kind of, you're going on two different parallel universes sometimes, and so you're not necessarily keeping up to date with each other's inner world. So the second rung up from that is sharing fondness and admiration. And I often tell my couples, you think positive things about each other, but are you sharing them? Right? That's the most important thing. We are quick to share the criticisms. We're not necessarily as quick to share the positives and the gratitude. So sharing fondness and admiration just means being grateful, saying, I love you, you're beautiful, you're a good provider, you're a great wife, you're, a very active father, whatever the case is. But when you think it, sharing it, The next one is turning toward instead of away. And we are constantly turning towards each other, right? In a relationship, we're looking for bids of connection, engagement, attention, affection, communication, whatever it is. And in that moment, our partner has three options. When we make a bid, they can turn towards, which means to reciprocate. And it could be as simple as, it's an acknowledgement, right? Or turning away, which is just the worst. And that's when you ignore your partner completely. And then turning against, which is also detrimental, and that's turning something positive or benign into a criticism or an attack on your partner. And we definitely don't want to do that. So in a healthy relationship, we turn towards instead of away. The middle here is the positive perspective. Usually when couples come in, they're in the negative perspective. And what has gone on up until now that I've explained to you, trust, commitment, building love maps, turning towards or away, sharing fondness and admiration, Whether or not those things are taking place determine the perspective of the relationship. So if they are taking place, you have a positive perspective. If they're not, you've got a negative perspective. What we know from research from the Gottmans is that when you're in negative sentiment override, you miss 50%, 50, off the top of all of the positive things your partner says and does for you. And that's really detrimental to the relationship. Also, when you're in the negative perspective, you tend to attribute positive characteristics towards yourself and negative characteristics towards your partner. What we want to do instead is what the Gottmans call the assumption of similarity. So when I see a positive characteristic in myself, how can I see that in my partner? And when I see a negative characteristic in my partner, how can I see that in myself? So that we become more alike than we are unalike. And we know that in relationships, we can also get trapped into this, if I'm right, then you're wrong, right? And what it actually is different doesn't mean wrong. And so it all plays a role, right? The next one up is managing conflict. And why do they call it managing conflict instead of resolving conflict? I learned this after my master's degree, after I've been working for years with couples. It's managing conflict, not resolving it, because 69% of conflict in a relationship is perpetual, according to the Gottmans. 69% is perpetual. So if you fight about the kids, you fight about parenting, you fight about your in-laws, you fight about the driving, you're probably going to be fighting about those things for a while. So it's not about getting rid of the conflict. It's about moving it from gridlocked, where you're not getting anywhere, you're just going round and round in circles, to dialogue, when you can actually hear each other, validate each other's perspective, and be able to articulate your own wants and needs, right? In the managing conflict section, obviously we want you to be able to accept your partner's influence, right? When we're more similar than we are unalike, we're more willing to accept our partner's influence over us. Dialogue about problems rather than blowing up, and practice self-soothing. And self-soothing is really when you get upset and anxious, or you're feeling depressed and low, you've got something that when you're depressed is going to bring you up, and when you're anxious is going to calm you down. And so everyone should have 5 or 10 healthy coping strategies that are kind of their go-to, whether that's prayer, journaling, beach walk, bubble bath, spa day, going to the gym. You know, it's different for everybody, but it's important to identify and implement those strategies on a regular basis in your relationship. Now, just like with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the top echelon is really, self-actualization. And what the Gottmans call that is, it starts with making life dreams come true. And that's when your partner is supportive of the things, the goals that you have, the things that you want to do, what's really important, what's going to make you feel fulfilled in life. And when your partner is supportive of that, it really just does wonders for your relationship in terms of having a healthy, functional relationship. And the very top of the house, the attic, the best of the best, is creating shared meaning. And that can be children, a shared business. What is the legacy? You know, when you have shared meaning in a relationship, that lasts a lifetime, right? So that is the sound relationship house theory in a nutshell. I'm sure there's much more to say, but this video is supposed to be short. So that's just a brief overview, and I hope you learned a little something, and have an awesome day. Take care.